Welcome to High School Football 2023. This is the Lawrence County SportsNet powered by LCAP, and for the 2023-24 season, one of our new features will be right here, our SportsNet Preview Podcast, our preview show. Every week in the fall, usually on Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll have our preview show, kind of recapping what's going on in the previous week's games and looking ahead to what's coming up on the upcoming Friday during the winter and spring. We'll continue to update on the big news and the previews on the hardwood and then later on the diamond, and also we'll touch on obviously all of the other sports going on all throughout the course of the year. But we'll also be announcing some fun awards throughout the year as well, including a new Team of the Month presentation. But more on that later. Speaking of awards, we need to give a congratulations again to Neshannock's Dom Cubelis, who won the Maine Chiropractic Play of the Year award for the 2022-23 season. Apologize for a little bit of the delay. We wanted to make sure all those votes were tallied, and we also wanted to make sure that all of the award recipients were officially notified. There are some prizes courtesy of Maine Chiropractic as well. We thank them for that. All of the those in the Final Four have been contacted or are being contacted in terms of getting those prizes, some cool gift cards and customized Play of the Year apparel. We'll be giving out the Maine Chiropractic Play of the Game shirts again coming up in all of our broadcasts this year. I'm James Dotson, glad to be here. Our weekly get-together is delivered by PennOhio Bottled Water. Make sure you give PennOhio Bottled Water a call for delivery of your bottled water service. Whether it's the standard 16-ounce bottles all the way up to 5-gallon jugs, PennOhio has you covered. So this is episode 1. Dare we call it episode 0? Well, let's get that out of the way right now. I used to love the concept of week 0. It's a great idea. When you went to 6 classifications, let's give a chance for local rivalries to still exist. It's an optional game. It counts towards your regular season, but it's an optional game in the end. Everybody plays on week 1. If you don't play on week 1, you can play the extra game early, week 0. I like the idea. The issue is there's, I think, 3 schools in the WPIL. I don't think there's any, or maybe 1 in District 10 that are not playing a game here in week 0. So I think I'm with everybody else now. I think Bob Greenberg of Mercer County Radio, he's going to enjoy the fact I'm joining the hashtag Ban Week 0 train here. And part of it is because of this team that, as a tribute, we're going to start with District 10, thanks to Mr. Greenberg there, and talk about the Wilmington game against Sharpsville. And this is why. Somehow they got a region game scheduled here for week 0. Shouldn't happen. Your first game should not be a conference game whatsoever. But that's what we have here. Wilmington and Sharpsville are forced to play arguably their biggest game of the year right off the bat against each other. It's the 20th time that the Hounds and the Devils have met, and it will be a fun matchup just to see how the Hounds rebound from what was their worst season, actually, in the Brandon Fillion era. His first 4 years of head coach, only 7 losses for Coach Fillion. 7 losses last year, 3-7. So Fillion now in his 6th year after taking over for Coach Terry Varelli. And speaking of Terry Varelli, he's back on the sideline. How about that? A longtime head coach for the Hounds said he needed something to do. So he's now back as the right-hand man for Coach Fillion, and kind of a flip-flop of what their roles were a few years ago. Lots returning for Sharpsville. Let's start with them. 9-3 a year ago. You have a quarterback in Colin Summers. 36 total touchdowns, 3,000-plus total yards last year, where Wilmington, on the other end, will have a new player under center in their Wing T system. Not sure who it will be yet still. We'll find out on Friday. Whoever it is, there are plenty of weapons to work with in that offense. Buddha Book, Ben Miller, Tyler Mikulin, the 3 leading rushers on the team. Book also the leading receiver on the team. Those 3 senior captains throw in a veteran O-line with Rocky Serafino, the 4th captain leading the way. Nice stability there in the trenches. We'll see how they respond. Last year, Sharpsville outgained Wilmington nearly 3-1 in that shutout victory, 23-0. And Wilmington had just over 100 yards of offense. That was the first win for a father-in-law, by the way, in that little series. Paul Picarelli, the father-in-law of Wilmington head coach Brandon Fillion. So This will be fun. Again, these two teams always seem to have a good battle. 2 years ago, it was 28-27, a great battle. Wilmington won. Both those games, though, were at the Pines. So Wilmington glad to have a home game. In fact, 3 of the first 4 games this year will be at home. We'll have the video feed with News Talk 790 providing the audio. We thank them, Ryan Briggs, the professor, and Chris Birch. Thanks to the professor for some help in that preview as well. The other game we'll have on Friday night, Newcastle against USO. That's University Prep. That's how they are most commonly known by University Prep, but USO because it's University Prep, Pittsburgh Science and Technical, and Obama Academy. Those 3 teams forming together and combining together for this football team that is in now University Prep in its 13th season with a football program. And the Canes, much longer than 13 years, but one of the roughest ones that we've seen in recent memory. It's the worst year for the Canes. They're looking to rebound. Worst season since they went winless in 1995. 2 of the last 3 years were 1-win campaigns. But keep this in mind, that 95 team that went 0-10, it was just 3 years later, Newcastle was WPL champions again. Can Coach Robinson make the turnaround happen yet again? It's going to be a tough challenge this year again in this ridiculously tough Parkway Conference, and University Prep won't be any easier. They return a senior quarterback, Max Qureshi. His top target was a first-team selection, Daniel Kane, last year, and junior Zaire Stevenson as well, a great receiver. Coach Robinson said it pretty emphatically. They can score in any play from any spot on the field, and lucky for the Panthers, too. They not only return their top running back in Paul Helvey, who missed almost all of last year with an injury, they returned their entire starting offensive line. So a big test right away for Newcastle, who they return a lot as well, but they were a lot of young players going sophomore to junior year. It starts with the quarterback, Tyrell Harris. You haven't seen many sophomore quarterbacks starting for the Canes. Now a junior, and the improvements that they've all said he's seen in himself and the entire team, it's enormous, and he looked good going through his progressions and making key decisions in last week's scrimmage against Sharon. Malik Jefferson in the backfield with Kayvon Gardner. Jefferson's actually the only 4-year senior, I should say. He'll get a bulk of the work. A nice thunder and lightning punch, though, with him and Kayvon Gardner. And coach is impressed with the O-line, said they're gelling. They need to continue to gel for this team to get further and further. Last time Newcastle played a City League team, by the way, was 2006 when they beat Peabody 32-8. It'll have to be the 45th time in Canes history that they will play a City League opponent. Tim Continenza Limon will have the call from Taggart Stadium at 7 o'clock on Friday night. The other games going on, Laurel at New Brighton. Yes, this will be a lot closer, I think, than last year's 63-7 scoreline at Spartan Stadium. Laurel lost 14 seniors from that team last year. We're excited to see, when you return one starter, you're going to have, obviously, a big turnover. I like to see what Lucas Santini and Jackson Sodders are going to do. They're going to take turns behind center, each with their own skill set. Ben Hennon, he's going to have the big shoes to fill, leading the way on the ground. Luke McCoy 2 years ago. Landon Smith steps into that role, has a historic year last year. Ben Hennon, he is very capable of doing some special things as well. We're excited to see what he can do. Laurel's lost just 3 games in their last 2 years. How about that for a stat? New Brighton, on the other hand, a winless 2022 campaign, but they return Brian Taylor at quarterback. Shout out to Giante Moore. He'll be back as part of the offense again. He's just been dying for this game because he was injured in this game last year in week 0, did not play for most of his junior year. So shout out to him. It'll be fun to watch him on the field yet again. Laurel is big, but they're young and inexperienced, and they will be tested in those trenches with 4 returning starters for New Brighton on the line. If you've not been down to Hill Memorial, please, I highly encourage you to check it out. Definitely, if nothing else, just check it out if you're watching at home. New Brighton Athletics on YouTube will have the video coverage for that one. Laurel has won, by the way, 5 straight against the Lions. The other game, Shenango at Olsh. It'll be on the Olsh Sports Network, on Trib Live High School Sports Network. For the video coverage of that one. Shenango will have plenty of experience back after a injury-riddled campaign for Coach Graham's squad, but they battled in all those games. I mean, You even put up a program record 75 points in one of those games. So, lots of possibilities. I'm really excited to see Sam Patton, his third year as a starting quarterback. Colton Fedrizzi is now a full-time receiver more than a tight end, but he'll be working his way inside at times as well. I'm really excited for those two and see what Landon Albertini can do in his first game as the primary back. It's a young team, but an experienced team that has been in a couple of pretty close, tight games, a couple of close losses last year. Think about the loss to Southside, the team that ended up being the number 2 team in this Big 7 conference a year ago. It's the 8th time they will have played Olsh. Shenango has played Olsh. Chargers won last year at Shenango High School. It was a 32-14 victory. This game being played, by the way, at Moon High School, the home of all Olsh home games. There are 14 seniors on the Our Lady of the Sacred Heart squad. We know they have athletes on the perimeter. They also have an experienced offensive line returning. Their quarterback is new, though. How will Van Campbell's do? I'll tell you what, though. He is a big boy at 6'5", 230. And the talk around town is he has a strong arm to sling it around. So first start, though, for the new QB for the Chargers. Again, it's a 7 o'clock start at Moon. The Olsh Sports Network has it. By the way, if you're going to that game, we have learned there are no tickets at the door, all electronic tickets, so keep that in mind before heading down towards the airport. Final game on Friday night, Elwood City against Brentwood. And EC, you're going to hear EPM a whole heck of a lot this year, I think. Junior Elijah Palmer McCain, already a 1,000-yard rusher as a sophomore. You know what he can do. He also had 60% of the team's touchdowns. He's got 4 returning starters on the line in front of him. I think it's a case and a chance for some big things that could end up happening for Elwood City. This is a big game right away for them to see what they can be this year, and especially for their quarterback, Chris Smiley. It's no secret. They're not hiding it. The turnovers certainly hurt. 15 interceptions last year, but he's shown flashes of brilliance. He did throw for just shy of 1,000 yards last year, and those quarterback turnovers, they're not all his fault. Some being hit as he was throwing it, or having to force something in late in a game. A lot of those aren't all his fault on those turnovers, but if they can limit them as a whole, I think Elwood City could surprise some people out there this year and be in contention out of the MAC for making the playoffs. Real quick on the other side for Brentwood, a new coach leading the Spartans. Longtime assistant Nick Capone is taking over, and he's got a lot of starters back. 8 returning on both sides of the ball. Cedric Davis at quarterback. Learning a new system, though. Again, it should be similar when you've been an assistant on the program for that long. So it's always fun to see that first game under a new system, how the team, especially the quarterback, ends up adjusting. 2 wins last year for Elwood, 3-7 last year for Brentwood. And it was a pretty good battle, 34-21 last year. That game was played at Brentwood. Now we're at the renovated Helling Stadium, one of 8 home games this year for the Wolverines. Wolverines and Spartans, no, it's not up in the Great Lakes state of Michigan. It'll be here in Elwood City. You can go to ecwolverines.com and check out YouTube as well, as ECS will be streaming that one on Friday night. Well, there's 5 games down. There's still a couple left to go. We're going to take a break, and we'll look at Saturday's games in Week 0, Week 1, on the Lawrence County Preview Show, presented and delivered by PennOhio Bottled Water.
Don't get left out to dry. Call the PennOhio Bottled Water Company for the fastest and most efficient bottled water delivery service in the area. PennOhio offers bottled water ranging from 16.9-ounce bottles to 5-gallon jugs, perfect for your next event or office water cooler system. Also, don't forget to ask about their custom labeling options. Visit PennOhioBottledWater.com for more information and to get a quote on their delivery services. Whether it's at home, in the office, or on the sidelines, PennOhio has you covered.
And let's get right into it with the final 2 games in our first week of the season. 7 o'clock, Sharon hosting the Shannock in what should be another fun, probably high-scoring battle between these two teams. It was 45-28 last year, the first ever game, by the way, between the Lancers and the Tigers. The Lancers put up 466 yards of offense, and they held Sharon actually to just 176 themselves, though Sharon did have 2 special teams touchdowns in that game. And I think more than anything, you're looking for Neshannock in terms of what they're going to be this year, and right away they're going to try to get that ground game going. When you have 4 big boys returning starters on the offensive line, that's what I'd be doing as well. The question is, how will Gino Mazzacco and company do with those holes being opened when you have your top 5 rushers not back after graduation last year? Coach Mo's nephew, Gino Mazzacco, the sophomore quarterback, will be the primary person I think that you have to look at. Again, a sophomore quarterback making your first start. Actually, a second start. He did start one game last year. But how will you do? You're replacing a 1,000 player, first one in Lancer history. Is actually the single-season rushing record holder is Johnny Huff from a year ago for Neshannock football, as crazy as that sounds. So Gino's, again, going to have some good help around him. I like Pat Argero, Dom Cubelis on the outside, Anthony Aiken, a little speedster in the backfield. I think he's got a lot of big-time options that are just going to be the next man up mentality for the Lancers. On the other side, Sharon, 3 all-region players back. I'm watching Bryson Roberson in the trenches. He's the team's leading tackler, plays tight end. But there's also going to be a Mr. Ham sighting. Yes, and Shannock fans know what I'm talking about. No, not talking about the civics teacher. We're talking about likely starting quarterback and best name in high school football this year, Mr. Ham. His first name, Mister. Mr. Ham starting behind center for the Tigers. There are actually 4 Saturday games going on in District 10 just in Mercer County alone. A lot of games had to be moved around due to the official shortage up there. That will leave that commentary for another day. Make sure you're tuning in, though. Sports Radio 96.7 will have the call at 7 o'clock from Tiger Stadium. That's also a very beautiful facility. If you've never been up there, definitely check it out. If you can't, though, listen in online or go to ProfessorBriggs.com while you're at it. He will have live stats available. So that's how we'll be tuning in for sure with the radio call and the live stats. And we'll be doing that because the majority of our crew will be at Sox Russo Stadium for, believe it or not, senior night on opening night of Union versus Mohawk. We'll talk about senior night in a minute. How about this, though? It is the 100th season of football for both Union and Mohawk. Both programs had their first season back in 1924, so this is year number 100 officially for both schools. No, they did not play each other in 1924, Union Mohawk. They did a year later, though, in 1925, and it was a 7-3 Mohawk victory. 68 times now in their history that they have played. That makes it, I believe, the second longest rivalry in the county in terms of games played. It's the Battle of the Border at Sox Russo Stadium, and we know we're going to see a lot of weapons. This is going to be, honestly, one of the more fun games all across Western PA over opening weekend. Union, the defending state runner-ups, their first 1,000 quarterback, Braylon Thomas. You got their running back in Mike Gunn. 2 of the top 3 receivers. I mean, Dane Jonke has really stepped up over the course of this last year. He only improved over the course of the year. I love the stat on Grayson Blakely, the number 2 receiver for the Scotties. He did not have an official catch last year. Not one. Though he caught, I believe it was 6 2-point conversions. He had 6 or 7 interceptions on defense. And he had a couple of catches, including a long one in the playoffs that was called back due to a penalty. It's just funny that he ended up not having an official catch, even though he was such a big weapon all throughout the course of the year for the Union Scotties. So lots of those weapons for the U. On the other side, Mohawk, they got a pretty good player when you got a 4-sport athlete as your quarterback. Jay Rona, 1,500-plus yards. You got the 2 top running backs back, the top 5 receivers all returning, including a couple of seniors in Dante Retort and Blaze Logan, and a couple of sophomores we're going to be watching too. Bobby Fadden already breaking receiving records, and Joey Nail looking really good in the preseason as well. Both teams returning 3 or 4 starters on the offensive line. And I think that's where I want to start first, is that everybody's going to enjoy the skill positions, but I'm going to be watching the battle of Mohawk's Alex Chapman, especially against Union's Jamel Mitchell. Those are just 2 guys who, again, I think go under the radar because they are in the trenches, but those 2 are workhorses, and I think the trenches, especially in high school football, that's where most games are won. I think this game will be likely in that same fashion. But obviously you can't go without saying that you won't find a better quarterback battle than you will between Jay Rona and Braylon Thomas either. And certainly not in the small school classifications. You're not going to find a better one than what you're getting here between Thomas and Rona. Also, I think the final key we're going to mention here, balance. Union did a great job in balancing the run and the pass game over the course of this championship run, did the Scotties. Mohawk, on the other hand, at times last year struggled on the ground. They threw the ball very well, but they didn't have that balance that they've been able to need. And when they've had their most successful seasons under Coach McCutcheon, that's been the key, is having the balance in the rushing and passing attack. And it's going to start right away here in this opener. Again, it is senior night. Coach Niedbala deciding, well, before there's potential injuries, anything like that, let's honor the seniors right away. So opening night, Saturday night, senior night for the Scotties. Plenty of alliteration, plenty of fun. We'll have it for a 6 o'clock kickoff, by the way, at lcsportsnet.com. Thank you again to PennOhio Bottled Water. Make sure you ask them about their custom label options. You can get your school logo, your business logo, your name, your fantasy league logo if you want, right on your bottled water or cases of bottled water. And remember, you can get hot or cold water at the touch of a button with their top or bottom loading cooler options. Thanks to them, and remember, you can check out all of our games this year for free at lcsportsnet.com, on Facebook Live. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're still part of the Trib Live High School Sports Network, where you can find a lot of games every Friday night. Our games are also now going to be on the NFHS network as well. Now, that costs a subscription fee to get on there. So during the regular season, make sure you're watching the free versions on our website, on Facebook Live, for sure. But come playoff time, all of our broadcasts will be on the NFHS network. So be ready and be prepared for that. More details coming on that as well. Good luck to everybody on opening night, and enjoy wherever you're watching, at the game, at home, live or archived, at lcsportsnet.com. Lawrence County Sportsnet, powered by LCAP.